by government to buy a car. And I remember that we would come here into the city 3 days in the week, and you have to run back to your constituency.
Right.
You couldn't afford to be in this city as a member of parliament. Then what we did was we started fighting for higher salaries, until now we are, I think, some of the most highly paid things. And the more you became affluent, the more people decided we must have a share of that, and therefore we started now dishing out things for favors, and corruption crept into our politics at that particular time. And so you wanted more money so that you can get to sustain yourself. Know that the turnover of members of parliament is about 70%. So people come in one time and they go. To sustain that, now you needed more and more and more and more. And that thirst has never been quenched. And so wananchi now know that you have money. And you have money, so let's share with this money. I shared the other day about the politicians who go to church or funerals. And they're in a hurry to leave. And this weekend, the pastor said to them, you come late. You come late, and then before the funeral is over, you're announcing you want to exit. And when you exit, people follow you. So you actually, why did you come in the first place? It's the same thing with churches. People now follow politicians for money. And so churches have to beg politicians, please don't leave in the middle of the service.
Or please don't come.
Would they say please not come?
No, because about Sadaka time is almost there. So you can't say, no, please don't come. So trust, and I just want to say this, there are there are about 8 pillars of trust that people need to know to restore trust. But one of those things which is missing is called clarity. Clarity is how you communicate your objectives, how you communicate your message. And the president of Kenya has said is that a lot of the problem he has was the poor communication of his policies. That clarity is very, very important. And I gave an example of the young man who said to his daughter, "Peleka hii simu weka kwa moto." And the daughter went straight to the kitchen and put it in the fire. Because the meaning of moto, what is that? You know, for him, he interpreted that to go and charge it. The girl said, this is something for the fire. So communicate clearly. Now, the second one is actually compassion. How do you treat your people? Can you please restore compassion in leadership? Because one of the things that we've done as politicians, we moved so far away from compassion that we just don't care what happens to our people. And that's why begging, following you everywhere, because you have not known how to meet their needs as a compassionate person. Here, you know, and that's a subject for another. Let me not go into the details of it. But the third one is what we talked about, character. Are you consistently who you are? Who are you? And we know each other, by the way, so well. That's why if the moment somebody gets elected in this country, it's, oh no, how did we elect this one? Because we know the character of everybody. We know who is the thief. We know who is this and that and that. We still elect them, but we know. So character is very important. Are you consistent in your character? The other one is competency. Are you really fit for the job? Do you know there are many people who get elected into this country's political system who don't know why they got there? You know, you are there, and then you start asking, but why am I here?
Why am I here?
What am I supposed to do? That includes presidents, by the way. That includes presidents. There are some people who become even president without understanding why they become president. They have just gone through a particular system. There are members of parliament here who the party just says it must be you. And you end up here and you don't exactly know what to do.
Or didn't want it even.
Or even when you probably didn't want it. And so competency is understanding, are you fit for the job? Are you trained for the job? Can you be trained even for that job? Commitment is the other one. Those are 8 C's for me. Commitment, and then of course there's connection and there's contribution, but finally there's something called consistency. Consistency is if you do the same thing the same way, we can know that we can trust you. Can you restore that? People love to see the little things done consistently. If I were to speak on each of these, we'll take a whole day. We don't have much time. But there's an effort to try and restore trust. And that effort is, first of all, you must accept there is a trust deficit here. That is vulnerability. Leaders here don't want to be vulnerable. You have to accept. At some point, I think the president in this country accepted. When the protests were, were
high.
Mm. And I think he managed to say, okay, I see things didn't go very well, but can we talk? But the whole idea that we have to do is go into the thing called character and tell us who you really are. We can tell that you are not the right person for this place, but can you change? Can we change anything in this? And so you can restore actually trust. Trust was there from the very beginning. We did not always start, we're not born corrupt. When we started, we had good intentions. But by the time, and I'm not prejudiced, but by the time a member of parliament who is earning a salary can actually buy a chopper or a helicopter and run it, by that time you begin to understand that somehow there's a very lucrative business somewhere that earns the person that kind of money. By the time you double your income in 2 years and you declare your wealth that you have gained
100 million.
I mean, somehow there must be a business somewhere. And so can we track that? Can we trust you with our resources if you're the one going to handle our resources? So I'm thinking that the subject matter for discussion that is not in leadership training is about trust.
I want to bring in and you mentioned the protests. They were up for a reason. Accountability was, at the center of it. But also you spoke on clarity, communication, transparency reports, and that all boils down to accountability structures, which I know you serving in government would understand, and even holding an office as a CS, that accountability structures are very important. Now, somebody and religious people would say that money is the root of all evil.
The love of money.
The love of money. Okay, Siti, the love of money. And you've also spoken on money. I mean, you have emphasized on it. And I was looking at when the former CS, was handing over to the now new CS, he brought in a very important thing. Saying,
which ministry?
Ministry of Treasury. Yes, and said Kenya needs to exit I think the grey list. And he spoke about it. And this is an issue that even when we pay our taxes, it's always around the taxes. Reject the Finance Bill 2024 was all about finances. And Kenyans are not very confident that when we give this, it works for us. When we put you in power, you work for us. It's all about you're going to take our money, our resources are always going to be stolen. How do we restore this financial trust? And it's not once, twice that Kenyans have demanded for proper audit of, money coming in, money leaving their pockets. This financial issue has become a major headache in this country. It seemingly is. The love of it is becoming the root of all these problems that you're even talking about this morning. How do we, in your opinion, come to a proper place as a country hygienically?
Well, thank you. And money now is very important for every sphere of life. Money. People have created niches for you. I saw the other day that even just to fund the universities, now we've been banded,
yes.
To 4 bands.
Yeah.
And even the people who belong the first, second, third band don't want to be now identified that way. They're all lining up in the 4th band so that they can get. But the thing is, I think this country has created classes. And there is a small class that has all the money, and there is the rest of us who don't have much money. And so the issues of trust in money is not understood by most of the electorate, because they celebrate the money you have as though it was their money. They celebrate it as a community. And when you are arrested, the community says, don't arrest that thief of ours. It's ours. And so we have a tendency to think community-wise. I mean, look, communally, basically what it is. How to restore. And I want to bring the example of yesterday's impeachment. And I watched the whole of it, by the way. I watched that impeachment process. Both days, to the end, including the last part of it, where there was, mourning and shouting and like you're saying, bad behavior was there actually. Even if disorder, I've never seen a speaker spend a lot of time saying order, order, and nobody would listen to him. He tried to throw people out of the chamber, and nobody would listen to him. Because there's so much interest in this thing called impeachment. On both sides, there is a winner and a loser. But it's beyond just getting Governor Kawira out. Remember, there are many people who are going to go out with her from employment. There are many families that are actually now mourning, and those supporters. And then there were contractors who were expecting money. There were people who supported this process of impeachment. There were senators who supported this process of impeachment. And now it was coming to a head, and the situation was becoming very difficult. But I looked at it and said, we made money the center of our politics. And when now you are getting out, you're causing a lot of people to just fail you because you do not have that kind of money. I grew up in a place where initially there was no expenditure, too much expenditure of money, because the Pokot people that I represented, Kachaliba constituency, the biggest thing for them was trust. Can we trust you with our lives?
Right.
With our security? Can we trust you with this and that? And when we brought the issue of people came in now to campaign later with money, lots of money. Those of us who didn't have much money survived, and that's how we survived for long, because we served our people. I grew up in a place where I studied something called servant leadership. I taught at Daystar University, and we used to teach servant leadership. And what that means, and that's missing in politics today, is that you're actually a leader. You actually got authority. But now you are facilitating other people. You are serving other people to be better. And that's what servant leadership is about. I wish people would understand that. And I heard the president the other day speak about it. Service was intended in leadership. Now, worship has replaced service. And why is it that when the president goes everywhere, we must all drive there, follow?
I like the word you used, worship.
Yeah.
But is the worship of what exactly? Because even the servant leadership is a biblical terminology.
Right.
It's with reference to what Jesus said. That those of you who would be leaders, who would be first, must. It's servant leadership. But then there's also, when you're talking about biblical terms, you're talking about gods, there's the worship of false gods. Because when someone puts themselves on a pedestal, they become a god, a small GS, but they become some sort of a god. Now, I was looking and I've been reading about your track record, and I've looked at the things that you have done. Yes, indeed, the change came about when you could no longer represent your constituency, Kachaliba. Money became a central focus of the election. Now, not just money, a lot of money. Now, the business element that I mentioned, if you look at our political parties, in my mind are all, let me underline it and circle it in red and green, all our political parties are business entities. And businesses are transacted. Businesses are transacted when it is you wish to get a nomination for that party to actually vie for a seat, business contract, because money is involved.
Yeah.
And throughout. And everyone knows this. Every time we have this discussion, and why I began the way I have is, we talk about the public being ignorant. Actually, I am of a contrary view. The real ignorance is with those who aspire for political leadership and achieve it. Why do I say this? If you look at what politicians in theory are supposed to do, is they're supposed to handle the scarcity issue. Why do I mean scarcity? A lot of the discussions about resources and how they're divvied out. Now, how is it that people who, by and large in this country, are educated, fairly well educated, don't understand that if there is plenty for everybody, then everybody gets some. Not necessarily plenty. But when you look at the manner in which our politicians go about their business, they reduce the whole, so it becomes very little. So even those who could have gotten some, not a lot, now get nothing. So you then destabilize the entire ecosystem out of your ignorance. Because how can you, who is supposed to be a protector of public resources, make it your business that the business you do is to ensure that money that the citizens collect in terms of their resources is the focal point of what you call your business?
How is that?
How? How can that possibly be somebody who we can then say is somebody who understands, when the very thing that would protect them is the very thing they work against?
Can that person be trusted, Mheshimiwa?
And even as you answer, because I want to add to what Siti has said, is it that they're ignorant or is it intentional? For sociologists who follow how power plays out, there's the creation of subordination and need. I mean, where are we at?
And I think that way of looking at it is a fresh breath of, a fresh air. The reason I say that is I think we have identified, if you take the example of CDF money, for example, in a constituency, it's really meant to go to the people entirely. But the leadership creates a situation where scarcity, so that people follow you for scholarship. They come to your home, they follow you for whatever the scarcities are there, and now you are able to, quote-unquote, supply from their own pot of resources.